Hey, what's going on guys? Adrian John here, and today we're going to be talking about the slide nerf. That includes what it is, what Bungie is aiming to hit with it, who will get hit the most, and my overall thoughts on it. But before we jump into this, I just want to keep up to date on all Destiny 2 news, information, leaks, tutorials, and more. There you go, subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, let's jump into it. So if you're not aware, in the recent This Week at Bungie, which I made a video on, linked in the description down below if you want to check it out, one of the big points of contention in this Week at Bungie is when Bungie outlined a nerf to sliding that is coming in Season 15. Anyways, to go into detail, what this nerf will do is it makes it so when sliding, you'll get negative 20 stability, plus 15% shotgun pellet spread, and 1.5 times flinch. And of course, since sliding is pretty much part of every endgame PvP player's moveset, they were rightfully mad. Because if you're not aware at the moment, a lot of the skill gap in Destiny 2 PvP essentially relies on the movement. And it probably doesn't help that also in this update, we're also getting a major nerf to Icarus Dash. A lot of PvP people are upset, and this is purely for the fact that this essentially adds a little bit more RNG to gunfights in PvP, which ideally in a competitive environment, you want the least amount of RNG possible to make a fair playing field. This nerf is essentially way bigger than a little bit more RNG while sliding. As someone who's played quite a bit of high-end PvP, for the most part, I usually only play Trials and Iron Banner at this point because PvP provides no loot, basically. Anyways, there's one big thing that PvP players are overlooking big time that this would hurt, and that is slide peeking / peeker advantage. If you're not aware how Destiny 2 works, the entire game essentially is built off the peer-to-peer server system. What that means is Destiny basically doesn't have dedicated servers and can never have dedicated servers because of how baked in this server system is. One of the big issues with this server system is that it will randomly choose whoever has the quote-unquote best connection, and then everyone in the lobby ends up playing off that one person's connection. Also, on top of this, because Destiny 2 servers bit rates aren't good, this allows for a lot of lag to enter the arena, even if you're not lagging yourself. This is why it's very common to see clips where people will melee a person like 2 or 3 times, and maybe only one of those melees ends up counting. Anyways, with that being said, this allows this thing called Peeker's Advantage to happen, where basically the servers are not able to keep up with the player moving, and so because this is why you run into a lot of scenarios where someone is rushing at you with a shotgun, and then they slide shotgun around a corner, and they get you before you even see them on your screen. Or this creates scenarios where a person, particularly a Stompies hunter, slides around a corner with, say, a hand cannon, and then they're able to hit you twice usually, and then they pop back into cover, and maybe a teammate comes up in for the cleanup. Ideally, with this nerf to sliding, this should theoretically give you a fighting chance back to Peeker's Advantage, without Bungie having to rebuild the entire game from the ground up to work on dedicated servers. On top of this, PvP players for months on end have complained about shotguns being extremely dominant in PvP, and this one should be fairly obvious because part of the main slide nerf is wider shotgun pellet spread, which means it's harder to get a kill with a shotgun. Another thing this should help with is in very high end PvP, this should help with hand cannons essentially being one of the only viable weapons in PvP. If you're not aware, hand cannons are super easy to use and deal a lot of damage in a short amount of time, so ideally sliding around with a hand cannon should be much harder to do. And one of the last major things that this is going to affect big time is movement exotics in PvP. If you don't know, Stompies, I think Dune Marchers, and Traverses Steps are essentially the 3 big kahunas when it comes to movement PvP exotics, and they're generally the best options for PvP exotics because they increase your movement and you want as much movement as possible. And what a lot of these exotics do is they make your slide longer, which moving into Season 15, you're going to want to slide as little as possible because obviously you get major debuffs when sliding. And the last thing this is going to affect that PvP players have been wanting for months, and that is to slow down the Crucible. One of the big problems with essentially maps in Destiny 2 is not really map design, but the fact that you can move so fast that you can essentially end Trials matches within 30 seconds seconds or spawn trap back and forth entire teams in Iron Banner. So with what the nerf is exactly trying to aim for is out of the way, let's go and talk about who it's probably going to hit the most. And if I had to be honest, at least the stability and flinch is most likely going to hit console players the most, while the shotgun pellet spread portion of the nerf is most likely going to hit PC players the most. Overall, in my opinion, I don't think this nerf is really going to do much, if anything, or it's going to be that noticeable. Maybe on some of the aggressive frame shotguns, you're really going to notice this nerf. But other than that, I don't think anyone's going to really notice this, and this is probably just a huge overreaction by the community. Again, if you don't know, the community immensely overreacted when mouse and keyboard players found out that we were getting huge recoil nerfs to a bunch of weapons, and then we never ended up feeling the nerf. Overall, I'm very disappointed that Bungie chose to go after sliding, because in my opinion, sliding, especially on PC, is really baked into how people play. And while it may not be a very skillful piece of the movement skill gap, it's still a major part of the skill gap. However, slide shotgun is extremely obnoxious, especially when I used to play on console. I know it's like 10 times obnoxious on there because you can't even move fast enough most of the times to even react. Honestly, if I had to quote-unquote fix this nerf, I don't think the stability and flinch should be there. That's completely unnecessary. However, I do approve of the shotgun nerf. Overall, I appreciate what Bungie's trying to do, and I understand what they're trying to aim for. However, like I said, I think adding the flinch and the stability nerf was aimed in the wrong direction. And on top of that, I feel like people are not going to end up feeling this nerf regardless. Anyways, this was H and John. Go and let me know your thoughts on the slide nerf down below. If you enjoyed, go and give a like. If you want to keep up to date on this kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.